Can you ever see yourself embracing being number two? I'm Moeno Sinde, and this is The Underrated. We share stories showcasing game-changing strategies and moments that have shaped business, music, sports, and culture as we know it today. In the late 50s and early 60s, the car rental business was booming. Hertz was one of the earliest companies to take the market by storm to become the #1 rental car company in the US. Their success could be contributed to two core laws of marketing. Number one, the law of leadership, which states it's better to be the first in any category than to be better. And number two, the law of ladder. This emphasizes that in every market, there's a hierarchy, and consumers perceive different brands or firms at various levels on that ladder. This means that the company that is #1 in a category will continue to improve, become incredibly successful, and ultimately be difficult to defeat. The rationale is once you infect people's minds with an idea, an identity with a product, and manage to do it well, then it's impossible for your sales to plummet. Think IBM, Gillette, Tide, Coca-Cola. These are some of the great companies that follow this law. When Hertz was establishing a monopoly of the car rental industry, Avis was struggling to keep up with the competition. For years, Avis stuck to the core message when advertising. Their message had always been mundane and predictable, finest in rental cars. This message worked, but it never pierced people's perception for them to leave Hertz. On the other hand, Hertz's message was the #1 in rental cars. There's psychology at play here. People buy something in preference to another product, not because they like it. People buy the product because they believe it's the best. They want to be part of something that wins, and have that feeling of being part of something that wins rub off on them. If you're #2 in any category, you have to do something extraordinary to grab the attention of the market. You can't afford to play it safe and go the mainstream route. Avis was doing this, and it was one of the main reasons they were running at a loss. Now, this is where things get interesting. Enter Doyle Dane Bernbach. Bernbach is considered the Steve Jobs of advertising. In the early 50s, the advertising world was research-based. Creativity was an afterthought. Typical business terms such as unique selling proposition were being used, and firms were being introduced to the modern psychology of Sigmund Freud to improve sales. Advertising was nothing but a serious, textbook-based, theoretical, risk-phobic place where the most dangerous word that could come out of your mouth was creativity. Doyle wasn't happy with the way advertising was done. He quit his job at his old firm to go start his own advertising agency. He began Doyle Dane Bernbach, and in a short period of time, DDB was being noticed for its creative, risk-taking, out-of-the-box approach for the ads they ran for their clients. At his firm, there was no one rule. People could work the way they wanted to and come up with unorthodox ideas. Creativity was at the heart of DDB. This idea seems common now, but back then, it transcended advertising. Wanting a fresh approach, Avis approached Doyle and presented their problem to him. No matter how hard they try, they can't compete with Hertz. They'll always stay at #2. Instead of looking at the problem from an academic, theoretical point of view, along the lines of how can I beat Hertz or what is my USP over Hertz, guess what the genius Doyle did? He started a campaign where Avis embraced its #2 position in the market. This move alone ran one of the most iconic, outrageous ads of all time. Their sales skyrocketed from this ad. After almost a decade of losing money, one genius ad changed it for them. The We Try Harder ads were an instant hit. Within a year, Avis went from losing $3.2 million to earning $1.2, the first time it had been profitable in more than a decade. From 1963 to 1966, as Hertz ignored the Avis campaign, the market share percentage gap between the two brands shrunk from 61% to 29%. Terrified Hertz executives projected that by 1968, Avis might need a new ad campaign because it would no longer be #2. The reason this ad worked is because people are more sympathetic than you could ever imagine. People appreciated the honesty, the boldness, and straightforwardness involved in the process. The honesty had a charm of its own. When Avis embraced their position as number 2, people began vouching for the company and falling in love with the authenticity of the company, all thanks to the creative genius of DDB and Doyle. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't. We release content like this every week on Wednesday on various topics on business, sports, music, and culture.